After more than 7 decades, a diary kept by top Nazi Heinrich Himmler has been unearthed in the Russian military archive in Podolsk city. Nearly 1,000 pages of, quote, outstanding historical significance are now being studied by the German Historical Institute in Moscow.
Beneath the waves and behind sealed steel doors, the past isn't resting. It's waiting. When a crew of unsuspecting sailors stumbled upon a decaying World War II bunker, curiosity turned to terror the moment they looked inside. What they found has remained locked in silence until now. From icy wastelands to sunken ships and forgotten villages, this journey uncovers 20 of the most haunting World War II relics ever unearthed. One discovery in particular left witnesses frozen, not by cold, but by horror. What secrets did they disturb? And why are some better left buried? Secret Nazi Arctic base. Deep in the frozen wilderness of Alexandra Land, Russian scientists made a chilling discovery that confirmed what had long been dismissed as Arctic legend: the existence of a secret Nazi base known as Schatzgräber, or treasure hunter. Built in 1942, the base was officially labeled as a weather station, but historians have speculated for decades that it may have been part of a darker, more secretive mission tied to Nazi obsessions with ancient relics and racial theories. Hidden for over 70 years, the base was unearthed by a team from the Russian Arctic National Park, who uncovered more than 500 well-preserved artifacts, including bullets, rusted fuel cans, and documents all marked with the swastika. The interior of the base was like a time capsule frozen in ice. The discovery confirmed the soldiers stationed there had met with a tragic fate. Many reportedly fell sick and died after eating polar bear meat that had been parasitized. Though the survivors were picked up by a German U-boat, the base was left to decay forever in the Arctic cold. Walking among these ruins is like walking back to a long-forgotten chapter of wartime history, one where desperation met delusion in the harshest of conditions. The site serves as a symbolic history of the Third Reich and a reminder of where it stretched, even the lesser inhabitable parts of the Earth. If you thought a hidden Arctic base was unsettling, just wait. The next one goes even deeper. Japanese underground hospital. Beneath the serene hills of Okinawa lie some of the most haunting remnants of World War II. A vast network of underground hospitals carved into caves and cliffs. These makeshift medical stations were used during the brutal 1945 Battle of Okinawa, where wounded Japanese soldiers were treated under horrific conditions. The nurses, teenage schoolgirls, hastily trained and thrown into battlefield chaos. In places like the Heibaru 3rd Surgical Cave, now memorialized at the Himeyuri Peace Museum, these young girls performed surgeries without anesthesia, tended to maggot-infested wounds, and cradled dying men in their arms. Many never made it out alive, perishing when the caves were overrun or bombed. Decades later, vestiges of the past remain. Some caves stand undisturbed, bearing bullet-marked walls stained with the patina of time. From time to time, Takamatsu Gushikin, a bone hunter in his own right, would uncover and collect remains long left in the shadows by the war. Unexploded ordnance lies with abandoned personal items beside tarnished surgical instruments that appoint these cave hospitals as archaeological sites and hallowed ground. Such is the trauma they enclose that somewhat museums try to recreate the sound and smell of the period, to make certain that this mute, buried history remains forever fresh upon the consciousness. Wolf's Lair. Hidden deep in Poland's Masurian forest, the Wolf's Lair, or Wolfschanz, was Adolf Hitler's most frequently used military headquarters during World War II. For over 800 days, this fortified compound served as the nerve center of the Nazi war machine on the Eastern Front. More than just a bunker complex, it functioned like a self-contained town, complete with a cinema, tea house, sauna, and even a hair salon for top-ranking officials. Surrounded by barbed wire, minefields, and armed guards, it was once one of the most secure locations in the Third Reich. But in early 2024, the already dark history of this place took a disturbing turn. While digging through the site of the former villa of Hermann Göring inside the complex, explorers discovered skeletal remains. The remains include at least 3 adult males and 1 child, with their hands and feet missing. What remains unclear, however, is how they were slain, which generates speculations about some wartime execution factor, or, worse still, over some occult rituals that may have been held at the Lair in its final days. It brings about the creepy questions of what truly happened behind the reinforced walls of this property. Once a symbol of Nazi control, but now, in eerie silence, a monument crumbling to whisper lonely secrets of history's darkest chapters. Bluey East, 2. Tucked away in the icy expanse of Greenland, Bluey East 2 was once a vital World War II U.S. airbase, constructed in 1941 to support the Allied war effort across the Atlantic. During the height of the conflict, this remote station buzzed with soldiers, aircraft, and shipments of munitions. But when it was abruptly abandoned in 1947, everything was left behind, from buildings lined with asbestos to rusted trucks, fuel barrels, and even crates of undetonated dynamite. Over time, the Arctic environment reclaimed the base, burying much of it beneath snow and ice. Today, the area looks like a surreal scrapyard, orange barrels scattered across the tundra like forgotten war flowers. The toxic reality lies beneath the haunting beauty. While decaying structures threaten the health of the surrounding land and waters, essential to the fishing and hunting lifestyle of local communities, leaded fuel had already started polluting the ground. Denmark has undertaken cleanup since 2019 and made financial pledges in the millions for restoration. But the wheels of progress turn slowly, and the silence from the United States has been deafening. Greenland has over 30 such abandoned military sites, and with polar ice steadily melting everywhere, fears are that many other environmental hazards, including incalculably toxic waste from places like Camp Century, might be revealed, thus partially disclosing yet another hidden legacy of war. Ewima ghost ships. Off the coast of Ewima, a recent underwater volcanic eruption unearthed a chilling reminder of one of World War II's bloodiest battles. The eruption of the Fukutoku Okanoba volcano dramatically pushed the seabed upward, raising 24 rusted shipwrecks that had been hidden beneath the Pacific Ocean for nearly 80 years. These vessels, originally captured by the U.S. Navy in 1945, were scuttled after the Battle of Iwo Jima to form a makeshift breakwater. Now stranded along the island's shore, their hulls, riddled with bullet holes and warped by decades of salt and corrosion, stand as haunting metal skeletons, eerily frozen in time. The place lies near the famous Mount Suribachi, where United States Marines raised the flag in 1945. Iwo Jima remains a perilous and obviously uninhabited site. If volcanic activity were not enough interest for the island, unexploded ordnance lies deep inside the ash-covered soil. The ghost ships are an eerie spectacle, yet serve as a mute reminder of the battle that occurred there. Almost in a reverse of hiding their buried history, these vessels may represent the few artifacts emanating from the grave to share a story that the sea has kept secret for generations. Soviet Submarine M49. In the cold, murky depths of the Peter the Great Gulf, a decades-old mystery was finally solved with the discovery of the Soviet submarine M49. This Malyutka-class vessel vanished without a trace on August 16, 1944, during a patrol near Vladivostok, taking all 22 crew members with it. For more than 80 years, it was presumed lost to the sea, its fate unknown and unspoken. After a painstaking 20-year search involving remotely operated underwater vehicles, the Russian rescue ship Igor Belousov located the wreck. Resting silently on the seafloor, the submarine's intact hull lay buried under layers of silt, as if trying to remain hidden in the vastness of the ocean. The investigators are of the opinion that a Soviet defensive mine was likely struck by the M49, transforming what was supposed to be a routine patrol into an instantaneous tragedy. Today, the vessel stands submerged as an underwater war grave, and a reminder of the many souls lost in silence during World War II. Its discovery, therefore, not only closes one long unanswered chapter for the families of the crew, but also brings to light how the sea truly keeps history's secrets, some of which are just beginning to surface. U3523 Submarine. Off the coast of Denmark, beneath the cold waves of the North Sea, lies one of Nazi Germany's most advanced and enigmatic wartime machines, the U3523 Submarine. This Type 21 U-boat was part of a revolutionary class of submarines designed to outpace and outlast Allied vessels, capable of remaining submerged for extended periods thanks to a cutting-edge battery system. On May 6, 1945, just 2 days before Germany's official surrender, U3523 vanished, with all 58 crew members aboard. Rumors swirled for decades about its possible escape or secret mission, as its capabilities suggested it could cross the Atlantic without being detected. This curiosity hovered in the air until 2018, when explorers from the Sea War Museum Jutland finally found the wreck resting on the seafloor. The bow section of the submarine was embedded into the seabed, while the tail remained eerily floating upward, as if to try to break the surface. While the direct account of the final mission continues as a mystery, it is presumed that the sinking was due to a British bomber. Lying in silence and darkness, U3523 proves to be a marvel of technology of its age, as well as an inexorable reminder that even the best, and above all, machines completely disappear without a trace by their narrative sealed by the sea. Unexploded bomb in Paris. In early 2024, the bustling city of Paris was jolted by a sudden and sobering discovery. A 1,900-pound unexploded bomb buried beneath a railway line in the suburb of Saint-Denis, just 1.5 miles from the city center. The device, a remnant of a World War II air raid, had lain dormant for more than 80 years. Its 440 pounds of explosives still active and potentially devastating. Unearthed during routine construction work, the bomb immediately triggered a large-scale emergency response. Authorities swiftly halted operations at Gare du Nord, Europe's third busiest train station, leading to nearly 500 train cancellations and stranding over 600,000 travelers. Even Eurostar services to London and Brussels were brought to a standstill. A 600-foot evacuation zone was established by the officials for securing public safety, which also included clearing entire streets and neighborhoods. An extremely rare event during current times, when war paranoia has resurfaced in modern Paris. The incident served as an ominous reminder, even after 8 decades, that World War II scars lay hidden beneath the surface of everyday living, while military bomb disposal experts worked under intense pressure to neutralize the device. The shocking size and state of the bomb left officials aghast, raising new questions about how many of these silent threats still lie buried under the infrastructure of the busiest cities in Europe. Nazi bunker under Gare de l'Est, Paris. Beneath the everyday chaos of Paris's Gare de l'Est, one of the city's busiest train stations, lies a forgotten chapter of World War II, hidden in plain sight. Tucked between platforms 2 and 3 is a sealed 1,300-foot bunker, originally constructed by the French as an air raid shelter and later commandeered by the Nazis during their occupation. Few commuters realize that just below their feet is a remarkably well-preserved wartime stronghold. The bunker's walls still bear chilling German inscriptions, while its dimly lit corridors house machinery rooms, a phone control station, and even old oxygen tanks meant to sustain life during gas attacks. Inside, time almost seems to have come to a standstill. Dusty tables and metal chairs that are now rusty sit exactly as they were left, alongside functioning pedal generators and fading railway maps from the 1940s. The air is laden with silence, the opposite of the commotion above. While not accessible to the public, the presence of this secret Nazi command post serves as a potent reminder of how deeply the war had dug into the infrastructure of the European cities. It is not mere history beneath the surface. It is history shut behind closed doors, waiting to be remembered. Gerlet Art Collection. In 2012, authorities made one of the most astonishing and unsettling art discoveries of the 21st century. Over 1,500 looted artworks hidden inside a modest Munich apartment. The reclusive occupant, Cornelius Gerlet, had been quietly living among priceless works by artists like Monet, Picasso, Chagall, Renoir, and Matisse. Many of the pieces had been missing since World War II, some even considered lost forever, including a rare 1914 portrait by Corot. But this wasn't just a case of forgotten masterpieces. Cornelius was the son of Hildebrand Gerlet, a prominent art dealer who worked for the Nazi regime, acquiring art under the guise of museum curation while participating in the theft and forced sale of artworks from Jewish families. This was a revelation that detonated the art world and reopened family wounds that are still bleeding from searching for lost heritage. The disturbing part of the entire discovery was the mundane specifications. It was just paintings piled behind furniture at the corners of an unremarkable apartment. The lot has kept silent for decades, hidden in legacies built by a man under one of historiography's darkest regimes. Since then, the Gerlet collection has become an epitome of the lingering consequences of Nazi looting of art from Jews, as well as of the convoluted restitution challenges, justice, and memory. That was chilling. But the next one crashes through history in a way you won't believe. Fortress B17 Bomber. The B-17 Flying Fortress, a 4-engine heavy bomber designed by Boeing, became an enduring symbol of American air dominance during World War II. Known for its resilience and ability to sustain heavy damage, the B-17 was a critical force in the Allied bombing campaigns across Europe. Yet, behind its legendary status lies a long and somber record of accidents and losses, not just in combat, but also in training and transport missions. From its early prototype crash in 1935, which famously led to the adoption of aviation checklists, to post-war incidents that left wrecks frozen in ice caps or buried in remote forests, the legacy of the B-17 is both triumphant and tragic. In 2022, one of the most recent and haunting reminders of that legacy was an air show collision of a slightly restored B-17 dubbed Texas Raiders, mid-air with another during an air show in Dallas. Among other things, the crash was devastating, shocking both onlookers and aviation historians alike. Although it is restored in homage to its wartime heritage, the aircraft met a fate strikingly akin to all those lost long ago. Also strewn across the continents lay still more wreckage from B-17s, serving as silent grave markers for their crews. Last but not least, there still remain reminders that, notwithstanding the undeniable efficiency with which machines can be made to fight humans, their real intrinsic value can only carry them as far as human vulnerability and the eventual price of conflict. Panzer tank found in garage. In the quiet German town of Heikendorf, authorities made an astonishing discovery in 2015, a fully intact World War II Panther tank hidden inside the garage of an 84-year-old pensioner. The surprise find came as part of an unrelated investigation into stolen Nazi-era artwork. But what police uncovered was far beyond expectations. Alongside the 45-ton tank, which had reportedly once been used as a snowplow, investigators found an anti-aircraft cannon, a torpedo, assault rifles, and pistols, all stored in the man's basement. It took 20 soldiers nearly 9 hours to remove the massive vehicle, underscoring the sheer scale of the private collection. In legal proceedings that day, for this gruesome war machine, the elderly proprietor was penalized under the strict German law regulating weapons of war. He was fined $250,000 and suspended from the actual sentence of imprisonment, and ordered either to sell or donate the tank to a museum or a qualified collector. In the German case, an eyebrow was raised about how a war machine regarded as dangerous and of historical significance could linger untraced in the residential neighborhood for so long. Scary, if one considers it merely in legal terms, the case gives a bizarre view into how war relics can lie dormant in places not expected, without distant battlefields, but under the roofs of suburban homes. Enigma machine in the Baltic Sea. In 2000, divers scanning the Baltic Sea for abandoned fishing nets made a stunning and unexpected discovery. A genuine Nazi Enigma machine resting quietly in the Bay of Gelting, off the northeast coast of Germany. At first glance, they assumed it was a rusted old typewriter tangled in seaweed and sand. But as they carefully cleaned it, the reality emerged. This was one of the most iconic and feared devices of World War II. Used by the German military, particularly the Navy, the Enigma machine encoded top-secret communications using a complex system of rotors and wires, making Nazi messages nearly impossible to decipher without the exact key. 3 rotors were those of the traditional rotors, as used by the Kriegsmarine or the German Navy, whose signals were among the hardest cryptographic problems for the Allies during the war. The success of Alan Turing and his team at Bletchley Park in cracking the Enigma code brought about a shortening of the war and undoubtedly saved countless lives. The discovery of such a machine, more or less intact after decades in the sea, offers a rare glance into the machinery of war intelligence and provides a dramatic reminder of the high-stakes conflict for information that took place beneath the surface of history, even literally in this instance. Bomb found in Venice Canal. In 2020, the serene canals of Venice were abruptly brought to a standstill when construction workers uncovered a deadly remnant from World War II. Buried beneath the industrial port area of Marghera during routine sewer maintenance was a 500-pound Allied bomb, packed with 300 pounds of high explosives. The device had lain undisturbed since 1945, a silent artifact from Operation Bowler, an Allied air raid intended to disrupt German supply lines in the closing months of the war. Its discovery triggered a swift and massive response from Italian authorities, who realized that a detonation in such a densely populated and historic area could be catastrophic. With the protection of the citizens in mind, the evacuation of 3,500 residents was put into effect as the city's transportation network was ordered shut down on a full scale everywhere. Boats were stopped, buses and trains were rerouted, and even air traffic was turned around temporarily at the nearby Marco Polo airport. Following careful disarming by a military bomb disposal team, the device was transported out to sea and destroyed. It was a wake-up call to see that even 75 years after the dropping of the last bomb, these scars of World War II remain hidden under the oldest streets of Europe, just waiting in silence to be excavated by chance. Planes found in Greenland ice. In 1942, amid the icy expanse of southeast Greenland, 6 P-38 Lightning fighters and 2 B-17 bombers were forced to make emergency landings during a violent snowstorm. Though all crew members were safely rescued, the aircraft were abandoned and slowly swallowed by the relentless advance of snow and ice. Over the decades, these World War II warplanes vanished beneath hundreds of feet of glacial buildup, entombed in a frozen grave. In 1992, after a massive recovery effort, one of the P-38s, nicknamed Glacier Girl, was pulled from beneath more than 260 feet of solid ice, astonishing historians with its state of preservation. Only the beginning. In 2018, another P-38 was found under more than 300 feet of ice by drone-mounted ground-penetrating radar. Not simply revealing the forgotten aircraft's locations, such discoveries offer uncanny visual evidence of how quickly nature can obliterate and preserve human history. Fully armed and nearly untouched by time, the planes are monuments to war and engineering, sealed in silence beneath a changing climate. These findings also have cast doubt on previously held beliefs regarding the rate of formation of ice sheets. They are not just war artifacts, but rather surprising markers on the timeline of environmental science. Heinrich Himmler's Lost Diary. After remaining hidden for more than 70 years, the Lost Diary of Heinrich Himmler, the architect of the Holocaust and head of the SS, was uncovered in a Russian military archive, revealing nearly 1,000 pages of chilling insight into one of history's most monstrous figures. What makes the diary so disturbing is its casual tone. Himmler documented his daily life in cold, methodical detail. Mornings began with massages or family conversations, while afternoons often included signing off on mass executions or giving speeches that advanced the final solution. One such entry marks October 4, 1943. the day Himmler delivered a speech to SS officers openly declaring the Nazi regime's intent to exterminate the Jews of Europe. The diary goes beyond mere reminiscences to expose the terrifying normalcy with which genocide was organized. Himmler's vague references to "in transit" likely alluded to secret meetings or trysts with his mistress. Still, they also emphasize the cryptic, coded language for hiding the monstrous deeds of genocide. Emotionlessly scheduling unspeakable violence reveals the stark bureaucratic precision of the Nazi regime, a prime example of Hannah Arendt's banality of evil. More than just an item of history, it is a horrifying psychological representation of just how calm and orderly such systematic cruelty was kept. World War II. Artifacts in British Yard. In a quiet field near Grantham, Lincolnshire, a team of metal detectorists made a moving discovery at Fulbeck Manor, a site once used by the British Army's 1st Airborne Division during World War II. As part of the Digging Market Garden project, launched to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Arnhem, detectorist David Olka and others unearthed a collection of forgotten wartime artifacts. Scattered beneath the soil were rusted bullets, uniform buttons, engine parts, drainage systems, and the very foundations of temporary military buildings. These items were not grand museum pieces, but rather raw, tangible links to the young men who once trained on that very ground. Now, the estate is peaceful. Once it was transformed into a busy wartime activity, an area where letters to home were scribbled, where drill exercises were undertaken, and while preparing itself for one of the most audacious parachute operations of the war. The place buzzed with soldiers. Each artifact unearthed was a mute witness to lives lived in fear, duty, and purpose. The finds served as significant reminders that the past was not always necessarily hidden deep below, but sometimes just underfoot, waiting to tell the personal stories of those who had prepared to jump into peril far from home. Aristocratic heirlooms in Poland. In 2017, a teenage boy named Patrick Lesman made a haunting discovery while vacationing near Lake Jeziorek in Poland. 2 rusted milk cans buried deep in the soil, filled with a trove of heirlooms from a bygone era. Inside were personal and historical artifacts belonging to the aristocratic von Finkenstein family. A Wehrmacht officer's uniform, medals, coins, love letters, a family seal, and even a toothbrush that hadn't seen the light of day in over 70 years. Among the most significant items were official documents, including Count Hans Joachim von Finkenstein's will and family diaries dating back to World War I. These cans, hastily buried during the Soviet advance in 1945, served as a desperate attempt to preserve a family's legacy as their world collapsed around them. The once prestigious von Finkenstein family of East Prussia got swept away into the chaos of war. Count Hans Joachim was arrested by Soviet soldiers and later died in a prison camp, while his wife likely buried the family heirlooms before fleeing. It left a Soviet officer's note pleading for their safety, but the property was seized in a few days and the animals confiscated. Then, what makes this discovery especially haunting is not the violence of war itself, but the chilling silence that followed. How a whole lineage once so wealthy and influential sank into buried memories hidden in metal containers. Not just relics, but echoes too of lives abruptly erased by the tide of history. Lost bunker found by sailors. A group of sailors recently stumbled upon a decaying World War II-era structure that turned out to be far more than just a forgotten bunker. Drawn in by the faint outline of a swastika still visible on its roof, the crew entered the crumbling ruins and discovered a sealed lower level. What they found inside shocked them. Water-damaged German documents, surgical instruments, and metal cabinets marked with faded labels in the old German script. The eerie stillness of the underground chamber, coupled with its preserved tools and files, hinted at something far darker than a typical military shelter, possibly a site for marine medical experiments conducted by the Nazis during the final, desperate stages of the war. There has been no official explanation on the record, but for a brief time, this story surfaced in mainstream media, where even Jesse Waters called it disturbing. He did not elaborate beyond that, but one could sense the discomfort, a sort of silent suggestion that perhaps this bunker had belonged to some classified operation or a long-forgotten one. Some consider the presence of surgical instruments and classified-looking documents in the bunker as evidence of another theory, that of the bunker being used for Nazi medical experiments or possibly some other sort of experimental wartime research. In any case, the finding stands as another nauseating reminder of how much is buried, not only underground but also in secret. Keep your guard up. This last one may look peaceful, but its past tells a very different story. 1936, Olympic Village. Originally built as a showcase of Nazi ambition for the 1936 Summer Olympics, the Olympic Village in Berlin, known as Olympisches Dorf, was once a grand and modern complex designed to host over 4,000 athletes, coaches, and officials. Backed personally by Adolf Hitler and designed by architect Werner March, the village featured dormitories, a grand dining hall, a swimming pool, a gymnasium, a football field, and a massive training facility. Behind the polished veneer of international athleticism, however, lay a darker purpose. The games were used as a platform for Nazi propaganda, promoting Aryan supremacy and sidelining Jewish athletes under a facade of global unity. In the aftermath of the games, the site rapidly transitioned from a celebratory mood to one of militarization. It became a military hospital, then an infantry training school. With the end of World War II, the Soviet Army used the complex as a military base during the Cold War, with soldiers living amongst crumbling reminders of the Nazi period. The last troops had departed in 1992, leaving the site to decay. Thanks for watching. If this story gave you chills, imagine what's coming next. Don't forget to like, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more hidden history and shocking discoveries. Hit the bell so you never miss what lies beneath the surface. And now, go ahead and watch the next video on your screen, if you dare.